I'm going to fast forward to after my official escape for the purpose of responding to the question of why I believe that Elvira Petrozzi is innocent of the crimes of this community. I will go back to the escape itself in a future upload. So one of the first things that I did after I escaped and made it back to the U.S. was get signed up for the R.C.I.A. class that was starting at St. John's Parish in Front Royal. I remember it was one of the biggest things on my mind when I was standing up to Nevis, was using a Catholic catechism and learning as I went certain things that I didn't know how to answer. It really bothered me. The whole time it really bothered me, and that whole experience just made me realize how much I didn't understand, didn't know how to defend. There were things that as a Catholic, according to Catholic doctrine, I believed as fact. But then when it comes to actually understanding or explaining it, a completely different story. One of my first priorities was I'm going to go to an R.C.I.A. class. This is highly unusual for somebody who is a quote-unquote cradle Catholic or a long-term Catholic that was baptized almost as infants. My point is, I've never met anybody else who's gone to an R.C.I.A. class unless you have to go because you're converting so you can marry somebody you love. A good majority of the way that the Catholic Church pulls in new members is via this rule that you can't marry non-Catholic, or if you do, it has to be with special permission, and that individual has to basically vow to raise any children that they have Catholic. At the time, I remember Pollard was the priest there. Was Pollard the head pastor or the parochial vicar? I can't remember, but it was Pollard. I know it was Pollard. He was the one that stuttered, right? Or maybe not stutter, but it would just pause, like ridiculously long in between sentences to the point where you'd start to wonder if there was something wrong with him, and then all of a sudden he'd start talking again. I think that's Pollard. Pollard was, I think, possibly running the class at one point and then handed it over to these other people and then was switching back and forth or whatnot. But the very first night that I went to the R.C.I.A. class, I was greeted by a rapist that I didn't know at the time was a rapist. The rapist running the R.C.I.A. class. He has a mustache, had white hair at the time. Mustache, silver to white, like a really, really light. Wife looks like something off Little House on the Prairie. I think she's a ginger. If you know who he is, I can't find pictures of him or anything. He may still be there. The man's a rapist. His son is a rapist and child molester. So I didn't know this at the time. I knew about the individual and what they did. I didn't know it was him. I didn't know that it was this family. I didn't know it was that man and his son. Well, I know they could still be at that parish. For all I know, they could still be running an R.C.I.A. class. I don't know. Do y'all know where they are? Do you know who I'm talking about? And they're running your R.C.I.A. class when I show up. Or how shocked they were acting. This dude came up and shaking my hand. He's all smiling. You know, who are you? What's your name? So, you know, you becoming a Catholic. I was born a Catholic. Very awkward. The whole class was very awkward. Everybody kept looking at me like I was an alien. As soon as they found out I was born into Catholicism, everybody's like, why are you here? Okay, so moving on. For about 9 months, I was praying and reflecting and writing a letter to Elvira, the nun who founded the community, when it was just a house. One house, abandoned house, that they had to basically reconstruct. One thing that I knew I needed to do, that I was determined to do, was notify her in some way of what Nevis was teaching, because I didn't know for sure if she knew what Nevis was teaching. No, I still needed to tell her, and I was trying to do that when I was in Sevillano. I tried to write her, and I asked to see her, and of course, Arena made sure that none of my letters got out to her. Arena made sure that I couldn't have any contact with her. Talked about getting to know her one-on-one, which is not a common thing in the community because it's so large and there's so many people in it now. I mean, she's basically a celebrity and countless people worship her. They worship the ground she walks on. It's not realizing it, but they do. I got to actually build a rapport with her. I got to know her one-on-one when I was being forced to stay at this convent. So I didn't know if she was ever going to see the letter, but I had to write it. I had to make sure to do everything I could to try to get the letter to her, and I figured maybe down the road in years I'll be able to afford a plane ticket to go see her specifically when I'm more comfortable doing that or able if a letter doesn't get to her. It just seemed like a fool's errand, but I had to do it. So I found out pretty soon after Elvira was going to be in Florida for the American conference there. I think that it had been like a decade since she had been to the U.S. So this was a big deal. Moment I knew I had to make sure that I was there, which scared me to death because that meant going onto their property, going around these people, Albino and Joyce and all these other brainwashed individuals. But she was going to be there and I was going to make it happen. Had several months to work it out, but I did work it out. I made sure I was going with a couple other American girls who also got out One of them escaped from Croatia in much more dangerous circumstances even than I did when I escaped from Italy, with 2 other American girls that were out of this community. Like, we're not going to get sucked back into it. And I figured it's the U.S., got some distance from it. This is too important for me not to go. I'm on American soil. They can't do anything. It'd be so extreme for them to be able to, like, kidnap me there. So I decided, as long as I was with these other girls, I needed to go there and I needed to do this. It was like a 2 or 3 day thing. We got one of the dorm rooms. Every single day of it, the first couple days, I couldn't get to her in person because, again, like, people worship this nun. It's like when you go see the Pope, that's what it's like, but smaller, but still, it's extreme. Didn't get to her the first day, didn't get to her the second day. On the third day, about 10 minutes before everybody was about to just shut down and leave, and she was getting ready to leave and then go to the airport, surrounded by people, just crowds. And I'm waiting for there to be an opportunity. I saw the sun going down and everybody was getting ready to leave. Just started to get terrified that I was going to be able to hand it to her. And then literally, like the Red Sea, this crowd just parts to where there's just this path directly to her for about 5 seconds. I ran up to her and I handed her the letter. I could tell she didn't recognize me initially. It took a few moments because I had so much more weight back on me at that point. When I was seeing her regularly, I was emaciated. But then she did recognize me, and I said, what's in this letter is extremely important. I said, I came here to bring it to you personally. Please read it if you can. Because I'm sitting here thinking, she's leaving for the airport. I thought that's all the time I was going to have. And all these other people are rushing her, of course, you know, like her bodyguards or, you know, whatever you want to call them. Like, come on, we got to go. And she goes, no. And she literally grabs my arm to stop me from walking away. It's like, tell me what's in this letter. I said, there's a lot. It's a lot. She goes, tell me, just tell me something. Tell me what's in it. She genuinely cares. This is somebody who genuinely cares. So I told her, I said, Nevis is teaching this regularly. This is what she's saying. This is Catholic doctrine, and this is what Nevis is teaching in the houses. Everything is in this letter. Every doctrine she teaches, every detail. I said, I didn't know if you knew. So what followed this next moment is how I knew that she was innocent of this, and she had no idea. The moment I got the words out, Nevis is teaching anti-Catholic doctrine in the houses. The shock, the utter shock on her face in that moment, it was not feigned. This was genuine shock for just a few seconds and then just devastated. She had no idea. I can promise you, she had no idea. As much as someone can know, I know that she had no idea. She thanked me over and over and over and over again for writing the letter, for getting it to her physically, and she said, I'm going to take care of it. She assured me she was going to take care of it, that I didn't need to worry about it anymore. So that was an enormous relief to realize that she didn't know, but also terrifying to realize that she didn't know. I think she's a good person. I think she's done a lot of good, but I think that she lost control of this a long time ago. A long time ago. And she has not had a clue what is really going on since. I didn't have time to bring anything else up. I prioritized making sure she understood what Nevis was teaching. I didn't even get into what Arena did to me in Sibiliano. Didn't get into what they did to me there, into the abuse that they committed against me. That is why I'm confident that she is unaware and innocent of the crimes of this community, this cult. So what happened is once she went back to Europe, to Italy, to Pagno, confronted Nevis and verified and confirmed that what I said Nevis was teaching was in fact what Nevis was teaching. Once it was confirmed, she was gone. And name people that I know to be in power and in control who are malicious people. But there are people I don't know that are in control too. There's too many. Like it's so big at this point. So I can name the ones I know, but as far as who all the people are in control now and who's in and who's out right now, she did not know. I can assure everyone this was a well-intentioned nun who started this thing that did not want it to become what it is, but is completely unaware of what it's become. Furthermore, just a few short months later, there was a notice up on the website informing the community members that Nevis was leaving. This is one of 2 nuns that left their order with Elvira Petrozzi to begin this whole thing. She has been Elvira's right hand all that time. Just weeks after me getting to Elvira notifying her of this, Nevis is gone. And just a couple months later, the notice is up on the website saying so. She was gone. She had been with her since '83. We're talking 2008 now, it probably was. 2000, yeah, it would have been 2008 by the time she was booted. She was booted because of this, because I made sure to get that to Elvira. Because I took my faith seriously. I took the religion that I stood for and defended seriously. I am the same person. I do the same thing for what I believe in today. You can change your mind, you can change your beliefs, but still be the same person. Just because you believe something different, just because you change your mind, doesn't mean you change who you are. There are people who care about what they believe in, there are people who take it seriously, and there are people who don't. That was kind of the final thing for me. I was already confident that she was innocent. But if I wasn't sure enough before, as soon as I found out that Nevis had been booted, after all those years, I knew that Elvira was a genuine, honest person because she told me she was going to take care of it. And she took care of it. She still doesn't know what this community has become. She still doesn't know it's a cult. She still doesn't know who is in charge of it. She still doesn't actually know who these people really are and what they're doing and why they're doing it. I think it's very unlikely this place gets shut down. It's too large. But you can save yourself by not going into it. You can save yourself by not entering into it. Don't go there in the first place. Do not go into this community. It is a cult and it's a dangerous cult. And you will be held against your will if you decide you want to leave at any point.
Her own tower with a water view, and she runs away the first chance she gets.
These wretched brats think the world owes them something, but it doesn't. Far and wide I ruled a kingdom with a heavy hand, but there was more. I had in mind a greater plan. I never cared to share, so the king would have to fall, but his child blocked the way to me, and fairest of them all. She was chubby, she was dumb, and grotesquely optimistic. She needed structure in her life, she wasn't realistic. I gave her chores and took away the things that she'd enjoy, but then I caught her singing songs with birds and then a boy. Love? Was I to just sit by and wait for her to take my crown? No, she had sealed her fate. She had to go, and so she did, and you know what they say. An apple once a day keeps your enemies away.